Today we're sitting down again to continue the series of the psychology of money, where I read chapters and some insight that I had while reading. So you can watch this video on its own, or you can follow back on the playlist from the start, come back, or what I only can recommend is reading it yourself to have better insight and have another understanding from your own perspective and thought processes. Let's keep things moving with chapter 13, room for error. So when you're thinking about the plane and there is an error occurring or the engine is not working, it has a backup. And even if that backup would fail, it has another backup and then a third backup. There's so many engineers who thought like, hey, we can't just have one failure, we need to have a backup of the backup. And that's kind of the ground basis that this chapter is talking about. We're not always sure or if we're able to manage our errors, but we should plan a bit according as much as we can. It's hard, especially if we plan long term. One of the topics was retirement. It could be that your amount that you have thought to save and the age that you wanted to retire will not work out as planned. It could be one of the factors that your saving, your annual return is not as much as you hoped for. It could be the amount in general was not enough due to inflation or general environment things and living costs go up or the bases have to be covered. Another aspect could be that some financial things come up during your life, even health issues can come up in the family, and then you have to use your retirement fund for this, which not always occurs in our plan because we think it's not going to happen. It could be also a death in your family that really pulls you off the railway. There are many things that we can plan, but I suppose what the best advice would be is to think a bit more outside of the box and have more in case things. Maybe save a double up or have more emergency funds that can be implemented to so many things. Another example is that he mentioned it could be a company that has so much success, but over time there was a leaking and the whole building was flooded, and due to all these costs and repairs, it could be that they lost so many or even closed down the building, which you think like a little piping and things shouldn't have any impact, but it's exactly these things that we think that shouldn't have a big impact, or we're not even calculating that in as a risk, can be in the future the risk itself. Basically, we could also say everything that works or has a mechanic way of working can be broken. So watch out for things that might be not on your radar regularly, or just double up, especially on emergency fund or in your availability of money for future in case and oops that might happen. And especially if they're drastic, it just gives your mental load a bit of a release if you plan for the unplanned. That's what being said in chapter 13. In chapter 14, you will change. It relies more on our personality, how we develop over age. You don't have the same mindset as you had as a 10-year-old, neither in your mid-20s and 30s and 40s. But that is also something that we have to adapt to. It could be that you have decided when you were 15 you want to become a doctor, you're pushing as hard as you can, get to that career, and 20 years later you realize, oh man, that career sucks and I don't want to be here, I'm exhausted. You've invested quite a lot of money and now what you're doing, you have to find another way. What should I do? It's not an easy decision, and I'm not saying you should have all figured out as early. Transitioning from your career, I think nowadays is so much easier than maybe my or my grandparents, where you just stick with the job that you had or that was posed and available to you. But that could mean that you have to have a bit more flexibility and room for what could be going on in my life in a couple of years or in 10 years. One of the things could be that you're want to get a lot of tattoos because they were trendy when you're 15, 18 or in your early 20s, and then in your 40s you're like, oh my god, what did I do? And you want to remove them. So there is just like a little aspect, but it's not something that you always put on your body. It could be also your career life and family environment change. It could be you were really high driven in your 20s and later on family became more important, children were a topic, and it seems to be easier to be a stay-at-home mom or working from home rather than making a career-driven choice after life chapters, so to speak. And I would say it's something very hard that we are not able to always understand and predict how we are in a couple of years. And we can change like in a week into dramatic events, or even just life-changing events after a trip could maybe really shake up your whole life. He was really focusing also on the money aspect. It could be that you have lived out your 20s not really saving up, and now it kind of returns back twice to you, that you haven't saved, not even a house is there, family is something that is now more in your thought process, but financially you're not even there, or the savings that you thought will last longer to that extent will not do it. So financially we have to make adjustment, but sometimes it's also just doing it for so long, investing every week 20 euros, investing the same amount every month for 15-20 years, no matter what's going on in your life, is also one of the key factors that he said. No matter what might be, you can always just continue what you have. Plus, if more informations are available to you, or you gain more knowledge about investments, stocks, and so on, please use that and continue and learn and grow in there. But it's also good to have a steady pace and use what you have and build from there, as the long run can also make the difference. And our third chapter that we are covering today is 15, Nothing is for free. This focuses on that we always have to pick a price range that we are willing to pay. He used the lovely example of Disney World. The entrance fee is 100 euro. Most people are more than likely to pay that. They're fine with it, as they know what they can expect in the park. There are so many things to see and do, and it's just a fun day. But it could be that you've bought that ticket well in advance, on a discount even, and that day when you're in the park it's maybe raining, so you still had that fee or that willingness to pay for the pleasure, in that case, to be in the Disney World park. And that focus the same as well. Pick something in your price range that you're willing to pay. So let's say maybe in your 20s you're consuming more time to studying and less than partying or seeing friends, so you can be ahead in your 30s or 40s. But that doesn't have to be always applied to your early stage of career. It could be also that something else is just more important lately in your life. And it could be also from a minimalistic perspective, when you're not as money or object driven in consume as such, you're more likely to spend time with your family, with your loved ones. You value just the time of being around them so often, rather than chasing something to provide for your family. And in the end, life situations change, and that time that you wanted to invest in financial security is gone. Especially if you have a toddler and you're grinding at that time, you're losing that precious time, and it never can be turned back. This is a focus that he lays on, that we have to be aware that everything comes to a price. It doesn't always have to be a price tag. It could be our time, our value, in general, our health, fitness, and the way we are driven in our day-to-day life. That is not always for free. But when it comes to investments, sometimes you want to be having the best rates, not paying as much taxes. But when you're going down a rabbit hole of avoiding things and always changing so to avoid the fee as such, this might cause you more harm than you think. You could lose everything after a while, or it's just a tendency that you haven't invested long enough long term to get a good margin, and in general the stock can grow for you. For you to sum it up again, so chapter 13 is having room for errors. No matter if it's your career life, personal health, have a bit of a backup plan and think outside of the box and have addressed what is not on your daily radar. Chapter 14 is you will change your goals, your values, and your whole personality will change. Definitely if you would compare it to a 10-year-old and when they're 65. There has been a huge change, which is often for the good. We get more reasonable, wiser in our decisions too. And 15 is that you will have something for a price. It's never something for free. You have to pay the price for your price range that you're willing to pay for, as such, with an entry fee. We're almost at the end of the book. Can't believe it. It goes by so quickly, but it's lovely to always have new insights from people. And let me know if you're reading the book, what was more interesting to you in these 3 chapters. Leave a comment. I'm loving it when you're interacting and we can just figure all of it out together. Thank you so much. Bye bye.